Welcome into a Hump Day, Wednesday, January 7th edition of Daily Faceoff Live. Tyler Yaremchuk and Carter Hutton back with you. As always, we are streaming live on the Daily Faceoff YouTube, and the show is a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Huts with a nice Van Gogh behind him. How's it going, Carter?
That is whatever the heck it's called, man. I can spell it out for you. I don't know if I can say it. So I know I'm getting a lot of press here. What's going to be on my TV in the chat? And boys, it's a wild card. I never know what's coming up there. So we just roll with what comes up.
We'll be joined by Steve Peters for our big segment today. He's going to talk about the New Jersey Devils, who are slipping and sliding their way down the Eastern Conference standings. And last night was an ugly one, a 9-0 loss at the hands of the New York Islanders, where Huts, they kept Jacob Markstrom in for all 9 goals. Did you ever have a moment like that in your career where you were like sitting in the net being like, pull me, like it's not my night, get me out of here?
I gave up 8 in the season opener when I was with the Arizona Coyotes, but I had no business even being in NHL at that point. I came back from an injury. And then I think back to another game where Jake Allen might have been having some PTSD, where Jake Allen started in Columbus. He got pulled. Ken Hitchcock put me in. Then I got pulled and Jake went in. We ended up giving up 10 goals, Jake and I combined. So that was, we had the walk of the shame leaving the rink that night.
Oh, the old double flip. Again, we're going to talk with Petey about the Devils and where they go from here. The Winnipeg Jets have lost 10 in a row. We'll touch on that a little bit later on as well. But today is our Atlantic Division report card. So, again, we'll continue the trend of doing the East first. We'll do the West on Thursday and Friday. Yesterday, we did the Metro. Today, it's a division that really doesn't have, the Lightning have started to pull away a little bit, but there's not like a clear front runner in the same sense of like you view the Carolina Hurricanes as the best team in that division. And honestly, when you look at the standings this year, like it's jumbled. I don't think anyone could have predicted that at the halfway point of the season, it would come in this order 1 through 8. But that made the grading really interesting on this one. And we agreed on a few, namely who we were giving our A's to. And there are 2 teams who we scored an A on our list, Huts, and they were the Detroit Red Wings and the Montreal Canadiens. Actually 3. We gave the Bolts an A, I believe, as well. But let's start with Detroit, who I think we kind of agreed are the best story in this division so far. A 614 points percentage, and this is coming into a season where I think a lot of Red Wings fans and even people outside of Detroit were starting to raise an eyebrow at the Yzer plan a little bit. I think it's fair to say that they've got things on track here at the halfway point of the season.
They do, and for a team that needs to, right? I feel like when we talk about GMs kind of being on the hot seat, I feel like Stevie Y gets a pass in the sense for a while here in Detroit because of his success in Tampa and what he built. And then the fact that he's the most legendary Red Wing we can think of, right? So he goes back to Motown. He's done so much there. But now it's kind of like, hey, we're at a point where this team needs to make the playoffs and they need to be in the hunt, and they've done that. They'd answered the call. I love their goalie duo, how it's worked out with Gibson and with Talbot, 2 veteran guys that can feed off each other. You're never going to have anyone undermining each other. And I think that's a good platoon. They have a lot of young talent. For me, it's an A for sure. But we're going to judge this team more on this second half and where they're at pushing toward the playoffs. And what does Stevie Y do to make this team better to be in that Atlantic Hut? When, we just talked about things being flipped on its ear right now. What can the Wings do to secure their spot to make sure that they're playing in the playoffs? I think it's going to be priority number 1 with this Detroit team and Stevie Y.
Yeah, and where I think the Atlantic's really different than the Metro in some cases is like, a team like Philadelphia, been an unreal first half of the year. And even if things don't go well in the second half, I think Philly, New York, like these are teams who are going to come out of this season and be like, all right, and the Islanders, that is definitely not the Rangers, but they're going to come out of this season and be like, you know what? It was a good year. We took a step forward. Maybe we're a lot closer than we thought. I think teams like Detroit, Montreal, pretty much every team in this division, Tampa's included in this conversation, like they will come out of this season and be judged fully on how it ends. Like if Montreal doesn't win a playoff round this year, I think this season is a failure, even though you and I both gave them a good grade, and they're one of the few teams in the East who are above a 600 points percentage. Like a team like the Habs, Huts, they will be judged on how they build off of last year. Like making the playoffs last year, big check mark, big win. This year, it's about taking that next step for the Habs.
Yeah, I agree. And, looking at where they're at right now in the standings, I think if you went back to the start of the season, and a lot of people thought there might be a little bit of aggression because it was such a emotional season for them last year. this is a pretty good spot in the fact that Sam Montembeault hasn't been able to make a save for them, right? Like he has struggled a lot for this team, and he was your guy, right? He was on Team Canada last year for the Four Nations. He was supposed to be your rock. He played a ton of minutes last year. So being able to guide yourself through a wavy first half when you weren't getting your starting goalie to make a save and to be in this situation, I think is a good thing. If you everything considered, the fact what they've been through, this is a pretty good spot. And I think there's room for growth, right? Like you look at their goals against here as Pat pulls it up, 22nd in the league, where yes, they can score, but can they defend and keep the puck out of their net? And not that I want to take a shot at their defense and the way they defend. There was a stretch there where both goalies could not make a save for this team. So all that being on the table, I think there's a lot of upside to this team, and I think it's only going to get better as you fight through these. There's always teams that deal with this, right? Where things don't go to plan, or your power play sucks, your penalty kill sucks, but they're finding a way to win hockey games. So I give them a lot of credit in that fact.
Yeah, 22, 13, and 6 on the year. It's been solid. And I like what you brought up with the goaltending. Like things haven't gone perfectly for them this year, but they've kind of found a way to persevere. Pulling back up our grades, the third team who we gave an A to this year is the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think for a couple of seasons, maybe people were going like, okay, are we going to see this Bolts team take a step back? And they're not. They're at the top of this division. And I think, Huts, if I had to place my money right now on which team I'd trust the most in the Atlantic to go on a deep playoff run, like it's absolutely the Bolts. I know it's funny because Andrei Vasilevsky's been an elite goalie for so long, but you forget he's 31 years old. Like this isn't a guy who's 35, 36. And you look at the forward group, like Kucherov's 32, Point's 29. Like they actually have a lot of pieces now who, yes, they're in their late 20s, but they're not in their late 30s. Like this is a team that maybe after a couple of seasons of losing in the first round and not going on those deep runs, maybe they are a little recharged. Maybe they are ready to take a step and go to a conference final, to go back to a cup final. Like I wouldn't put anything past this Lightning team.
No, I don't think you can, right? Just with their superstar power. When you think about where you're going to match up in the playoffs and what you have, they can find ways to win games just because of that talent. And then the X factor is, for me, it is Andrei Vasilevsky, who's been very good. And you think back to those runs, right? 3 cups in a row and then a back procedure and trying to get back to find yourself. One thing I will tell you, when you go on a deep playoff run, just being on the ice and the grind of what goes into it. And I think at times we forget, even myself, like, I was in it and I understand the dog days, but now on this other side of the media, like a team has a bad stretch and I'm the first one to be like critical of them. And then you start to think like, they're playing every single day, right? Every second day there's a game, 3 or 4 a week. And now all of a sudden you get that extra break to rejuvenate or be in the gym more or find other ways to improve. And I think that's what you're seeing right now with this group, a veteran group that has done it with injuries this year. Everybody has injuries, right? We hear it all the time, but McDonough's out right now. Hedman's out. They've missed some really star players for a substantial amount of time, and they're still finding ways to win. This is a dangerous hockey team this year.
So let's check down from the A grades to sort of the next group of teams. And listen, we'll leave the disappointing ones. There's 2 Ds on our report card here that we'll talk about in a little bit, but 3 teams got Bs. The Buffalo Sabres are one of them. And listen, if we would have done this on December 7th, the Buffalo Sabres are probably getting an F, but they've totally flipped the switch and turned around their season. I guess and we were a little bit different on the Sabres in the individual grades we gave them. I was a little bit lower, because if they've done this before. They've done it when you were there, not to bring that up again, but like they've won 10 in a row. They've had us believing at the midway point that this Sabres team is different, and then they totally fall apart later on in the year. So I don't want to heap too much praise on Buffalo, because if they miss the playoffs by 1 point, Huts, this season will go down as another failure. Like just being where they are right now, that's great. They will be judged on where they finish on April 12th or whatever.
For sure. Their grade got bumped up because of this run that they're on. It's still buyer beware, in my opinion. And we've talked about this at ends on this show because of the fact of their history and where they're at. And again, like you said, I want to say it was January or at some point when I was on the team, we had 110 and we were first in the league. And we were planning the parade at that point, right around Buffalo, and the wheels came off. So they need to find a way to do that. And it is reassuring. I think they're scoring, they're finding ways, but they need to find that consistency. And again, I don't think this is just like, is this the general manager change, a little bump where, he went in, I heard Tage Thompson talk about that he came into the room and told everybody that you're going to be expendable. We can trade anyone. Nobody's safe. Like, this team needs to work and win. That's great. But let's start seeing when the games start piling up, when we get into February, post-Olympic break, if they can continue to do this. So good grade for them. They're in a good spot. I don't love the way they did it with the Jekyll and Hyde of their game, but we'll see what happens in the second half.
Yeah, like my one thing for them in the second half is to find consistency. That's something PD and I talked about on Friday when we gave our New Year's resolutions. If I could give one thing for the Florida Panthers, who, listen, we gave them a B minus. They have the same number of wins as Buffalo. Yes, they've won more than they've lost this year, but they are on the outside looking in when it comes to the playoff picture in the East. I think my one thing for Florida might just be to remember the good times. I feel like this might be a bit of a down year for the Cats. I don't know if this team, Barkov out, Tkachuk still not back. I know he was skating the other day in a contact sweater, so he's maybe getting closer, and we know how badly he wants to play in the Olympics. But like, they've spent a ton of assets. They've expended their cap space and spent right to the upper limit. I don't know if there's a Seth Jones, Brad Marchand deadline coming for this Panthers team. I think this might be a step back year for them, and that's okay. You've made 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Not every year is going to be a banner year. I think for Florida, my thing is it's been fine. This hasn't been a miserable start to the year, but remember the good times, because I don't know if you're going back to the big dance this season.
Yeah, I think this is where they need to lean on goaltending a bit more. I think we got to see more Daniel Tarasoff as it goes here. Give Bobrovsky some rest. And, if they can hang around, right? And by I mean hang around, be within a few points like they are right now. They're a win behind the Pittsburgh Penguins for that second wild card spot. They're right there. This is kind of what you want from this team without Barkov, without Matthew Tkachuk, without a lot of pieces, Kulikov on the back. So I think it's reassuring in that sense, but I'm kind of with you where if they can just find a way to get a seat at the table in the playoffs, it's a success. And then from there, if you're a team in the Eastern Conference, this is not a team you want to meet in a 7-game series just based on experience, based on their history. But I feel like when they do get in, or if they do, they're going to be limping in, and they could be a dangerous team with everybody healthy.
Yeah, next team we had is the Boston Bruins. They were honestly kind of the hardest team for me to get a read on. And maybe Ottawa was the second closest, but like Ottawa I'm more down on. Boston, like the first half of the year has been good, and David Pasternak's unbelievable, and Morgan Geekie's been one of the best stories in the NHL, and Swayman's bounced back, and the blue line looks better, and there's all these positives, and yet it's like, okay, all these things have broken right for you. All these things are going well, and you're still just stuck in the mush in the East. And like, does Jeremy Swayman have a second half that looks like the first half? Is Morgan Geekie a 50-goal guy, or does he cool off and finish in the high 30s, which would still be a great season? But also, I wouldn't be surprised if he cools off just a little bit. I don't know where I stand on the Boston Bruins. Like, I sit here, I tried to come up with one thing for them in the second half, and it's like, I don't know, maybe you find a way to be the 8th seed. Maybe you're picking 14th in the draft. Like, I don't have high expectations. I don't think they're going to crater. I just don't know who the Boston Bruins are.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take, right? I think if you were sitting here and, like how we kind of gave it to Columbus yesterday, that could have been the situation in Boston. And we would have been totally accepting of it, right? Where it's almost like they're overachieving in the first half with what they have and what they have in the cupboard for picks, and they've moved guys out. So I think it's great that they're there and you're earning some valuable minutes. I think about Fraser Minton scoring the other night, just being in a good situation where he gets to grow. And you have that lineup where when you look at it on paper, it's missing a lot of pieces, right? But then again, as I reflect on it, you're like, well, these are good opportunities for guys to play important minutes and develop and work toward the future. Because I think this is a team, like you talk about with Florida and Tampa, they're paying for years past of dealing picks and trying to take shots at cups, where if they're able to do it, it's going to really rely on, Pastrnak, Geekie scoring continually, and then obviously Swayman being a giant difference maker. So good on them, but I don't expect much from the second half.
Yeah, they've dealt with a bunch of injuries too. Like, a whole bunch of their top guys have missed 10+ games already this season. Okay, quickly before we get to PD, there's 2 teams that we gave D grades to. They both reside in Ontario. The Sens we gave a D+, the Leafs we gave a D-. And I guess my one thing that kind of combines the two of them in one, are either one of these teams going to sit there and go, not our year, and potentially sell off or not add? And I think part of that would come down to job security. Like, how secure does Steve Stais feel? He actually might be the guy who sits there and goes, you know what? I don't think they're going to fire me. I think I got some leash here. I'm going to go ahead and, maybe I move on from a couple of vets, and I'm certainly not adding at the deadline. With the Leafs, like, I don't know if Brad Treliving has the job security to sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to trade some of my pending UFAs and it's just not our year. We'll try again in 2026, 27. Like, I think Treliving's in a corner here where, hey, like a bad gambler, and we certainly are that based on our Bet365 segment, I think Brad Treliving's got to chase his losses a little bit here and do anything to try get this team hot in the second half of the season.
Yeah, the Toronto's a team for me that, like, I think they're a little better than they've shown. It's just the inconsistency and effort in their game. And I love getting on Leafs Morning Take and listening to Jay Rosehill rant about that, because it is something that when you watch a team like that, the inconsistency in their game. And again, when you look at other teams like Tampa or a Carolina per se, you kind of know what you're getting every night. And I think that's the biggest struggle as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan or somebody analyzing this, is the inconsistency in their game, because they have the talent. I think Stolar's being hurt, Joseph Wall's filled in admirably being the guy, but it's different when you have a 1A, 1B. So I expect them to make a push. I expect Treliving, because that being said, this is a team still trying to get there. Now, on the other side of it, for the Ottawa Senators, like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I feel like the Linus Ullmark situation is ugly. You need him to be there. He's making 8.25. He's on a leave. I get it. He's a friend of the show. But that being said, like, this is a team that has more expectations. You weather the storm without Brady Tkachuk, and then you get him back, and then you go on a tailspin, which I don't really understand. I know there's a bit of a decompression when you get a star back, but I think it's been a thoroughly disappointing season for the Ottawa Senators. But that being said, in this division, if we look at the standings, you're a winning streak away from being right back in it. So everybody has a seat at the table, but these are the first half numbers that I truly believe when we're bang on.
Yeah, I that's why someone said the Leafs deserve that D-. Someone else said the Leafs deserve to be lower. Like, I have trouble putting the Leafs lower because they're 2 points out of a playoff spot, right? Like, if a couple of results go differently, and I know someone said they're 10-4-4 since November, since the start of whatever stat they threw, and it's like, okay, 10-4-4, you've won 10 times, you've lost 8 times. The loser points prop you up a little bit, but like, that's still a pretty mediocre run if we're being honest. So I don't know. I could totally see the Leafs rattling off 6, 7, 8, 9 wins at some point here. And all of a sudden we're like, oh, what first half of the season? The Leafs are fine and we'll get to the playoffs and it's a different team. No Marner, all of that stuff. But again, like, there's a reason why they play the games. Like we said, the Atlantic was unpredictable in the first half. To sit here and pretend like you know how things are going to play out in the second half would be foolish, especially, again, the East is just so mushy. So the Atlantic was honestly probably the more difficult one to grade compared to the Metro. Like, I felt like the Metro Huts had a few more like really defined storylines where, like, the Islanders and Flyers, great starts. The Canes, exactly what we expected. The Caps were kind of exactly what we expected. The Atlantic's the one that was way more upside down for me.
And again, it's not based off of where they're at in a sense right now in the standings. I think that's something to portray to people is like, yes, the Leafs are right there and they've done well in their last games, but we're also basing this off of like expectations of where this team should be and what they are on paper. And that's why I think teams like the Bruins and Sabres score a bit higher, where the Leafs are still a team that think that they are contending for a Stanley Cup. And based on that first half, I don't think that's a team contending for a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's fair too. Let's get to our big segment. We'll talk about one of the coldest teams in the NHL, and the New Jersey Devils, with Steve Peters. It's the Film Room, and it's brought to you by Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app, from game day eats to paper plates and napkins. If you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your go-to game day dip, whether it's before, during, or after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every hockey fan all season long. Steve Peters from Inside the Coaches Room and ESPN joins us, as he does every week. And today the topic is the New Jersey Devils. And there is listen, when you lose 9-0, when you're on the streak that the Devils are, they're 13th in the Eastern Conference, there's a lot that is going wrong. And yesterday we talked a little bit about the offensive struggles, which have been noteworthy since Jack Hughes' injury. But I want to start on the blue line. Luke Hughes is getting booed by the home crowd. It's a fan base that is fed up with Dougie Hamilton. Like, how bad has the defending been for the Devils, even if the offensive struggles grab a lot of the headlines?
You know, this is a team that needs their defense to help participate in they're 25th in the National Hockey League in points by defensemen. That needs to be much higher, especially with Dougie Hamilton. And you look where Hamilton was a year ago at this time, he had 27 points. This year he's got 9. He's trailing Brendan Dillon. No knock on Brendan Dillon, but Dougie Hamilton needs to help provide offense to this team. But the problems run much deeper defensively for this team and their ability to defend and keep the puck out of the net. This team is struggling. They have the worst 5-on-5 goal differential in the NHL. They have the worst overall goal differential in the Eastern Conference. They're 30th in first period goal differential. They're struggling. They can't keep the puck out of the net. And if we want to look at some of the reasons why, let's go to the video. And there are some major problems with this team. There it is, Patrick. We start. They create their own problems. They turn the puck over a lot in the defensive zone. They're unable to get the puck up to their quick forwards and play that speed game that they want to play. They continually cause problems, and this is why Luke Hughes is getting booed, because they're turning pucks over in the defensive zone, causing their own problems. And then once they turn the puck over, nobody wants to defend. Nobody wants to get to the front of the net. Nobody wants to box out. Nobody takes their check off the wall. So you end up with players all alone near the blue paint around Markstrom and Allen. And that's been the other big problem, is they don't defend the area in front of their net. You see consistently puck watching, leaving open areas in behind, and you have to defend first. You cannot win in the National Hockey League if you don't defend the front of the net. You go to the puck carrier, you chase the puck carrier, you leave openings in behind. It's a consistent theme for this New Jersey Devil team. And again, you leave players getting to the front of the net, and you can't defend in front of your goaltender. And it's not all on the goalie. This is some big mistakes from their goaltenders. They create their own problems and big bad goals like this, where here's why Luke Hughes is getting booed. He makes plays like this that end up in the back of their net. This New Jersey Devil team has to be better. And you talk about the New York Islander game where they gave up 9. This is a turning point in this season. And Huss will tell you what it's like on the bench when the team gives up 9 goals. Everybody gives up. By the time this game is 4 or 5-0, as a video guy, I stopped breaking the game down, because it doesn't matter anymore, because everybody has quit. And I'm not quite sure what was going on the bench, why you left Markstrom out to dry like that. I don't know. It might be something personal between Keefe and the goaltender, but this is a problem. And this is going to be a big hole to try to dig out of, especially when you're going to Pittsburgh, a team that's won 5 straight.
You know, that being said, the Markstrom staying in for the full game and what that sends to him, to the team, you know, is this all on him, his struggles, right? Because again, I'm always trying to be analytical of it, right? You look at Jake Allen, he's been so good this year. He's played 22 games. He's got a 913. He's been rock solid, and he's very simplistic in his game. And then I watch Markstrom, and it's all over the map right now. And he's got an 878. It's been ugly. You know, is this totally on him, PD, or is this just a product of that defensive core?
You know, it's everything. And I think with Markstrom, one of the problems when they brought Markstrom in, he was going to be the savior. There were some goaltending issues in in New Jersey prior to this, and Markstrom was going to be the guy that helped them for a long playoff run. The problem with Markstrom right now is he's giving up that 1 or even 2 bad goals per game. And in this league, especially when standings are this tight, you can't give up a bad goal. They need him to be rock solid. And like you mentioned, lucky for Jake Allen. Without Jake Allen, this would be even worse for the New Jersey Devils. And this is a team since December 1st. They're the 31st place team in the National Hockey League. Only Winnipeg has fewer points since December 1st than the New Jersey Devils. And it's not goaltending, but the goaltending could help mask some of these problems if they started to play lights out between the pipes.
So obviously, you know, Devils fans are fired up today, and I see a lot of stuff online. Fire the coach, fire the GM. Tom Fitzgerald is facing a lot of heat. You know, he fails to acquire Quinn Hughes when that trade looked like it was just tailor-made for that Devils team. The Hamilton contract isn't aging well, all of that stuff. Is that just fans overreacting to a tough stretch, or do you think this is a team that maybe does need a coach or GM change to kind of shake things up and wake them up a little bit?
There's a couple things. One thing that would solve this immediately is win a couple games. It can change a culture in the room. It can change the vibe in the room. You just need to win a hockey game. Unfortunately, they've got Pittsburgh and Minnesota coming up in 2 of their next 3, and wins may be difficult to come from. I know back in the 90s when I first started working in this league prior to the cap, if a team was struggling this bad, somebody's getting traded. And they're doing it just to trade somebody and change the mix in the room. They can't do that in New Jersey. The cap, they're up against the cap. They're having troubles moving Dougie Hamilton. They're having troubles moving Palat. This is a problem. So when you can't move a player to shake things up in the room, the only thing you can do is start firing people. And I know that sounds cruel, but you look at what Keefe's comments were a week ago. calling out his entire team for their effort, leaving his goaltender in like this. There's a rift in that room. I'm telling you, there is. It's a difficult thing. And once you get that separation between coach and players, it's hard to come back from. Now, is it part of what Tom Fitzgerald has created in this roster? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think they're strong enough in the top six. I think there's a hole there. And I clearly their bottom six is not providing the secondary scoring that they need. This team needs a major change. If they think this is the playoff team, if they think that they can compete and try to get back into this race, they're only 3 points out. If they can find a way to get back in, yeah, I do think they're going to need to make a change. And I do think it's going to be a major one, and it probably is going to happen soon.
PD, like, so as I look at this roster and I look at like production from players, do you feel like at times we just like reuse players too much? Like Palat is having a horrible run here with the Devils, right? And I know what he did with Tampa Bay and how good he was in those cup runs. Do you feel like at times teams hold on to players too long? Because look at his success and Nason, they haven't produced anything. And these are players they need to be good, especially with a younger group.
It's hard. And I think what happens is we set expectations on these players that maybe they can't reach anymore, whether they've worn their welcome with a coach. Because I've seen that. And you have two Huts where a guy just doesn't mesh with a coach and he can't play in his system. The coach doesn't like him. His ice time's diminished and it just doesn't work. And he can go flourish somewhere else. We saw Timo Meier, for example, play extremely well here when he first got to New Jersey. But now they're struggling for offense. And it's everybody. It really is. You look at last year, Jack Hughes had 50 points at this time. I know he's been hurt, but Jesper Bratt leads the team with 33. He's 73rd in the National Hockey League in scoring. They don't have anybody in the top 70 in scoring right now. So this is throughout their lineup, their ability to provide offense. And it is their best players not playing the way they play. You watch the Devils, you want to see that pace. You want to see that odd man rush chances for. You're not seeing it. This team is not playing fast. They're not generating offense through Haysher and Bratt and Mercer and Hughes. They're not playing fast. This is not the New Jersey Devil team that we're accustomed to seeing, and that's a concern. They're going to have to find a way to change and get that spark back in their offense.
PD, let me put you on the spot with one. Who's more screwed, the Devils or the Jets? The Jets haven't lost 10 in a row since they were the Atlanta Thrashers.
Yeah, I don't understand this in Winnipeg. It's one of those that I understand when Hellebuck went down that they were going to take a step backwards. He drives that bus there, but what's happening there in Winnipeg is almost unexplainable. I don't know if they can recover from this. The Jets are in big trouble. I don't know if they can climb out, especially as well as the teams in the Central Division are playing. The Jets might miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I think that's looking more and more like the reality as we move on. PD, appreciate your time as always. We'll chat again next week.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
And as we get to our Ask DFO, Joe's in the chat. He says another overrated team in Winnipeg. And, there's some rumblings today that, hey, maybe Kevin Cheveldayoff is going to try and inject some scoring into this team. I'll be honest, Huts, I don't understand why you would add to this group. Like, I get that you have a veteran team. You're built for the now. You want to try win. Sure. They're at the point where, like, forget being 10 points out of a playoff spot. You're in last place in the conference. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams you'd have to jump just to get into that second wildcard spot. And if you're in that second wildcard spot, enjoy your 4 or 5 game series against the Colorado Avalanche. Like, I just don't see the point for Winnipeg spending assets to add to this group to try pull off what, quite frankly, would be a miracle for them to get back into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I agree too, because then you end up in an 8 or 9 spot. So then who do you draw? Colorado, and you're waxed. I guess this is a team where it's surprising, but not surprising. Like President's Trophy winner, no, right? Like I don't think anyone really thought that they were the best team in the league last year after running away with the regular season. But that being said, like I didn't think we saw this big of a regression in their game. So I'm concerned if you start spreading around, what's one more year, manage Hellebuck's minutes, let him go play in the Olympics, be healthy for that. And you still have majority of your pieces back. Try to make some trades, move some guys off that you're not married to. And then hopefully next year you have another run at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can even go back to last year, and I know they were red hot, but like Ehlers walks for nothing. You don't replace them. You bring in Gustav Nyquist. I see, like J-Rock just said, like they sure miss Ehlers, and like yeah, they do. He was an absolute game breaker for them. As good as Scheifele and Kyle Connor are together, like not having Ehlers there for that secondary support, it's killing them. Okay, let's get to, also we did a poll. Will the Devils turn around their season? 89% of you said no. I think I'm agreeing with the majority there. I don't think the Devils are turning around their season. Daily bets for Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Pat Puff, staying hot. The only one with a green check mark, Pat.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it simple these days. Money line, two teams that I thought were underrated coming into that game. Obviously, I mean, Edmonton kind of had an advantage on Nashville, but the line wasn't too bad, so I'm pretty happy with it. You guys were close, though. I mean, it's got to turn around for you guys eventually.
Oh, thanks, Pat. That makes us feel good that you feel for us. You know what I mean? And you just I kept it simple, too, with the money line. We all kept it simple, but nobody won but you. So he's running away with it, Ty. We got to catch up.
Yeah, I might take at some point here like a plus 1,000 banger just to try get back in the mix here and roll the dice, because what I'm doing ain't working. Tonight, 2 shot props. I like both these guys have hit it in 3 of 4, but are coming off losses. So I kind of I'm switching up my approach a little bit here on this one. The 2 players that I'm eyeing tonight, Matt Duchene and JJ Peterka, they each only have to get 2. It's plus 191. Got greedy on Monday with the 3-player, only going with 2. Pat, what do you got?
Yeah, maybe keeping it simple is a little bit too vague, but I'm going to go even more simple today, and I'm just going with a simple San Jose Sharks money line versus LA. I know they're on back-to-backs, but they've got Askarov in net, and this team likes to score going up against a team in LA who can't seem to score. Second last in the league in scoring. San Jose, again, 5 yesterday. They're middle of the pack in the league for scoring, so I like that one. At plus 237 for one single money line. I love that.
There we go. That's a good bet, Pat. So yesterday I did the road guys, and they both lost. Avs lost, and then I had the Ducks who got waxed by Trevor Zegras. I'm going with the home team today. Washington Capitals win. Montreal Canadiens win against the Flames, and the Stars are going down tonight, and then I'm coming back for more. Let's go, boys.
I like that Sharks bet from Pat. I mean, you look at LA, they've been a putrid home team this year. They're 7-13 straight up on home ice, and Pat's not even taking a puck line or a regulation line. Like, that's just a straight up win. So that's a good one from Pat. Let's wrap up the show with a little bit of garbage time. And listen, a rivalry has developed out of, I mean, basically nothing but the trades the two teams have made. But the Ducks and Flyers play in opposite conferences, but there's beef here. And look at this celebration from Trevor Zegras after finding the back of the net. First off, one of the best stories in the NHL. We talked about it yesterday. Like, he has totally found himself playing for Rick Tocchet in Philadelphia after the Anaheim Ducks kind of punted on him. And, you know, that celebration, he was asked about it after the game, Hutz, and he said that's how quickly the Ducks hung up the phone after telling him he was traded to Philadelphia. So there was some serious hate there that went into that game, and I love it. If you're Zegras and you're scoring against your former team and you feel like they did you dirty, you're absolutely doing that kind of celebration.
And I love it too, in a market where they feed off it. And he made a few comments too about at intermission and then at the end of the game about how he loved the booze too as well for Cutter Gauthier. So I do respect that. And you're kind of playing into your market. He's really redefined his game. It's been fun to watch. He's got more points now in half a season than he did all last year with the Anaheim Ducks. So good for him, because this was a guy, if I'm going to be totally honest, I kind of counted out. Like, I feel like they gave him the keys to the castle. Maybe that's the old school guy in me where, you know, he was on the cover of like ESPN and doing all this stuff before he really did anything. So good on him redefining his game. And would it be fun to see the Flyers go on a run? Because there's nothing like it in that building. They just build a lot of energy and they make it hard on anyone they play.
Yeah, that when that building's rocking, when that city's rocking, it's awesome. Trevor Zegras, by the way, on pace for 34 goals and 82 points this year. That would crush his previous career highs of 23 and 65. So a great story in Philly and a great little celebration there from Trevor Zegras. That is a wrap on today's edition of the show. Shout out to Petey once again for his time today. We will be back tomorrow, noon Eastern. Enjoy your Wednesday, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.